clearly remember seeing this movie in the theater. At the time, for some reason, me and my friends thought Lindsay Lohan was like hilarious. We had like a ironic love of her, but maybe like not that ironic, you know what I mean? Me and my friend went to see this movie in the theaters, and ever since, it has been probably my favorite so bad it's good movie of all time. It's wacky. I've seen it at least 10 times and it still gets me every time. I'm still laughing. I'm still like discovering little things in there. It's amazing. This movie came out in 2007, which was kind of a rough year for Lindsay Lohan. She was probably at the height of her fame, but it was mostly for her late night antics more than her acting and singing. While she was filming I Know Who Killed Me, she was in and out of rehab, she was hospitalized for exhaustion, appendicitis, and she also had a couple DUIs. Apparently they had to use doubles in some of the scenes because she just wouldn't show up to set. I also read that there were paparazzi like surrounding the set at all times, and that in some scenes you can see one in the background. I've never been able to pick one out. I've never seen one. About 5 minutes into watching the movie, I forget to even look for them, so. This movie was supposed to be like Lindsay Lohan breaking free of her Disney Channel roots and becoming a woman. The movie opens at a strip club. We see Lindsay coming out as a dancer, but she's just kind of trudging lethargically out onto the stage, slowly kind of holding onto a pole and twirling around, but like not really doing anything. She's supposed to be a stripper, but you will not see her strip. I don't blame her for not wanting to, be nude in a film, but it is funny because they will intersplice it with shots of like other women in the background topless, as if to say like, we know you wanted boobs, here's a little consolation prize for you. The dance is pretty much her just slowly walking and then like hanging off a pole with one arm. The movie cuts to a scene in a home. We see Lindsay. She plays Aubrey, who is a straight-laced good girl, who is a creative writer and a pianist. A pianist. She plays piano. She plays piano. She is a piano player. So she's getting a lesson and she stops and says like, hey, I'm really not feeling piano anymore. I want to focus on my writing. And her piano teacher is like pissed.
The next Young Artist competition is less than a month away.
But I want to know, when's the most natural dialogue competition? It cuts to her house and it's just like a straight cut, cat balls. We see Aubrey at school with her boyfriend and they are in biology dissecting worms. And he like starts kind of like feeling her up with the nasty gloves on. If your boyfriend's getting turned on dissecting things, that's a red flag.
I just keep thinking
Jared,
about it.
can you point out for me the female reproductive organs?
We see a scene of a couple who's identifying the body of their daughter, and we learn that there is a serial killer on the loose who is amputating limbs from his victims, but also dosing them with amphetamines so that they're like awake during it. He will cut off a limb and then he'll heal it, and then he'll continue cutting off limbs to keep them alive so they like to suffer more. Back at Aubrey's house, she is coming home from school and she starts perving on the landscaping guy. This movie thinks things are sexy that are not sexy at all. Like, the landscaping guy starts like rubbing his hand up and down the log that he's holding in like a vaguely sexual manner. No, what? But she's also into it. First I was like, girl, have some standards. But then I saw his sweet tribal nipple tattoo. Aubrey is at a football game with her friends. In this scene, we see multiple shots of footballers, do we call them that in America? Football players getting traumatic brain injuries. There's some editing happening here where it kind of like blurs and there's flashes of color and it's like you can almost feel the encephalopathy. She gets separated from her friends and her boyfriend and they're looking for her.
Where's Aubrey?
What?
Okay, where'd she park? Where'd she park her car? Come on, you rode with her.
Yeah, it was on that street. It's the street, you know the one.
No, I don't know the one. Tell me.
Really shouldn't have told the actors to ad-lib this. Then we get a dramatic shift in tone. So far it's been pretty light, nothing super dramatic or violent. But we cut to a scene where we see Aubrey getting tortured by this serial killer, and it's super grisly. He's using like dry ice, and it's like very effectively nasty, but it feels kind of out of place. Like all of a sudden it's like, Saw torture porn-esque scene in this otherwise kind of like brightly colored movie. It's just kind of jarring, and it feels off to me. Someone finds her body at the side of the road. We see her wake up in a hospital. It reminded me of that scene from The Butterfly Effect where it like pans down and then she's missing a leg and an arm. The other victims were found dead, but it looks like we found Aubrey alive, except this girl says she's not Aubrey.
Aubrey's been very brave. With any luck, we'll have her out of the ICU tomorrow.
Who is Aubrey? Who are you?
She's Dakota, a hard-living stripper from the wrong side of the tracks. They have her talking to an FBI psychologist, which I guess is a thing.
Date of birth?
June 9th, 1988.
Social security number?
I don't have one.
I hope she knows sovereign citizenship doesn't work.
Why does a shrink need your social security number?
I like to have it for my files.
You're Fuzz, aren't you?
There's a flashback of Dakota finding her mother dead from an overdose in this like 1930s depression looking apartment. She finds a letter with some money in it, and its postmark is New Salem, which is the town that Aubrey is from. Aubrey. In the hospital, Dakota gets fitted for some prosthetics. It's kind of a funny scene, but I swear I remember there being a part in here where she's trying to use her new hand and she goes to like pick something up and she just like crushes it. I swear that scene was in there. I was waiting for it to happen and it never happened. I wanted to see her smash things with her monster hand. The feds are interrogating her for details about the serial killer, and she's being somewhat uncooperative and a little antagonistic.
We have to know the truth.
Oh, I'm sorry. You want to know the truth? Well, what about me? You think I don't? How the fuck would you feel? Fingers, leg, hand, gone.
It was hard to pay attention because I kept getting distracted by her hands that looked like she rubbed them in Cheeto dust. And then there is the first of many just insane scenes in this movie. We get a flashback to Dakota doing a dance at the club. She comes out on stage and there's a guy smoking a cigarette, right? She takes the cigarette and she like seductively rubs it down her body. And it's implied that she puts it, and then takes a drag, hands it back to the guy, and the guy takes the cigarette and smells it. Ugh. Like I said, this movie thinks things are sexy that are like really, really not sexy at all. So Dakota gets discharged from the hospital and she goes home with the Fleming family, which is Aubrey's family.
I have never seen the inside of a strip club or a crack house, and I have never sold my body to hairy old men with BO.
I guess it's because she has nowhere else to go, but like, how weird would that be? If you're really not Aubrey, if you're really not their daughter, and you decide to just go home with them, at the Fleming's house, Aubrey's boyfriend comes over to talk to her, and he thinks that she's Aubrey, and she's trying to convince him that she's Dakota. So she proceeds to take him up to Aubrey's room, and they have sex loudly while the mom downstairs can hear it, and she's trying to like furiously clean the house so that she can drown out the sound of them banging upstairs. It's like a weirdly comedic scene juxtaposed by scenes of extreme violence. The tonal shift here is just wild. If that's really if you think that's your daughter, like you're just okay with that, like your high school daughter banging it out in the bedroom upstairs.
Did she ever fuck you like that? Did she ever fuck you at all? Do you think she'd start now?
So the boyfriend asks her, if you're not Aubrey, how'd you lose your leg? We get a flashback scene of her in the shower. Her hand starts to hurt and she just looks at it, and all of a sudden her finger just like decomposes and falls off her hand. And it's like this kind of older looking effect, like a stop motion claymation type effect, and I thought it was really good. I liked the use of that effect there. It was definitely gross. We see her at the strip club. She's popping pain pills. She pulls off her glove and her finger just fucking falls out. She's on the bus home with a cloth wrapped around her bloody hand, and she starts talking to this random dude who's like,
You gotta hold it higher. You gotta hold it higher than your heart.
and she's like, don't you want to know what happened? And he's like,
People get cut. That's life.
sometimes people get cut. That's life. I love this guy.
People get cut. It's life.
Jesus.
Dakota's trying to figure out what connection her and Aubrey have. She goes to the home of one of the other victims to investigate. She's kind of just looking through the girl's room. She notices there's a lot of trophies and awards. The cops got a DNA test, and it shows that Aubrey and Dakota's DNA is a perfect match. They also find a story on her laptop that is about a girl named Aubrey with a twin named Dakota. So they figured like she's just making this whole thing up. Then we get my favorite scene, which is another flashback to Dakota. She's in her apartment. She's starting to hallucinate from blood loss, and she sees the guy from the bus.
Higher than your heart. Odd, even. Right, left. Rest, motion. Peace, war. Love, hate. Two halves to everything. Sometimes people get cut. Sometimes people get cut in half.
It's just insane. It's so silly. It makes me laugh out loud every time I see it. This was the point in the movie where I started questioning, like, are they trolling? Is this a real movie? Were they just trying to see, like, what they could get away with? Dakota Googles stigmata on ask.com, which is hilarious. This is the second movie where we've had a defunct search engine in the movie, and I've only watched like 3 movies so far. She comes across a video narrated by Art Bell. Art Bell is in this movie. Random cameo. In the video, there's a pair of twins who, I guess like one of them gets shot and the other one develops a bullet hole and also dies. So she's like, oh, that must be it. We must be twins, and we're having this kind of like twin connection. She goes downstairs to talk to the mom about it, and the mom shows her a sonograph like video, and it shows that there was only one fetus, so she couldn't be a twin.
You're all by yourself in there.
The funny part about this scene is that the dad's just kind of like off in a dark corner listening to them, just kind of like creeping back there. Dakota has a vision of Aubrey in the mirror in like a cemetery and like stained glass, and in the vision Aubrey gets hit on the head, but in real life Dakota falls down off the stool. I don't know how or why, but somehow this is the moment where she figures out what's going on.
Susan's baby died in the incubator, and you bought Aubrey from the crackhead down the hall because she had one to spare.
She confronts the dad, and the story is that when giving birth in the hospital, it was a stillborn. They didn't tell her. He like found a woman who had given birth to twins down the hall, and that woman was like poor and desperate and willing to sell one of the twins to him, and then he passed that off as their natural daughter. That's wild. Then there's another flashback where we get a scene of her trying to sew her dead finger back onto her fucking hand. I feel like even a kid would understand, like, that's not gonna work. Like, that tissue's dead. That's necrotic. It's not gonna start spontaneously. It's not gonna work. But yeah, she's sewing it back on her hand, and it's like another element of horror, I guess, that's just kind of like gross. It looks effectively creepy though. It's a good effect. Then she wakes up in the middle of the night and realizes that her leg has just fallen off of her body. So she is hitchhiking trying to get to New Salem because that was the address on the envelope with money, and she figures like maybe somebody there can help me. She ends up passing out from blood loss, and that's how she was found at the beginning of the movie on the side of the road. She goes to the grave of the murdered girl. She sees a blue ribbon on the grave, and she reads it, and there's like something written on the back. She reads it out loud, and it's filmed very dramatically.
Blue ribbons are for winners. Never stops for the red. Rest in peace, Douglas.
presented in a way like this should mean something to us. We have nothing to connect to this little thing she's saying. We don't know who Douglas is. We don't know what any of this means, but apparently that's supposed to be us connecting dots in the audience. Maybe they cut something out because I'm not connecting shit. Then she turns to the dad and she says,
I know who killed me.
No, you didn't. No, you don't. You know who kidnapped your twin sister. Because she's not dead, you're not dead. He didn't kill you or her. I guess the title of the movie is clickbait. A clickbait movie title. They, for some reason, decide to go to the home of the killer. I guess maybe thinking Aubrey is there, but as we'll learn later, Dakota had a vision of where Aubrey is and it's not at this guy's house. So there's like a tense scene where she's supposed to be trying to sneak into the house and he's like lurking around and there's a noise outside and then it just like cuts to a possum. I guess the possum's making the noise, but like every time it makes me laugh. Throughout the movie, there's been this like repeating plot element where Dakota forgets to plug in her prosthetic leg to charge it up, which I'm not sure if that's a thing you have to do, but in this movie it is. So at this point, when she's trying to sneak around this guy's house, her leg runs out of battery and she has to like drag it behind her, and I think that's supposed to be like increasing the tension. Okay, so she walks by a door and suddenly the killer's hand comes out and it's like a blue glove on his hand. She picks up one of these glass knives she finds on the ground and then just starts like sawing the shit out of his hand. It goes on for a really long time and the guy is just yelling over and over. Bro, you could have like pulled away. He just like stands there screaming, allowing her to saw off his hand. And then it's kind of funny because like when the hand comes off, his little like nub just kind of like retreats behind the door. Yet the official reveal that the killer is the piano teacher from the beginning of the movie. What's really funny is when I saw this in the theater, literally like 5 minutes into the movie, my friend turned to me and he's like, the piano teacher did it. And he was right. There aren't really that many other suspects. I think we were supposed to suspect that landscaping guy. The reveal is confusing. So he's a piano teacher who expects perfection in his students, and when they don't live up to his expectations, he like kidnaps them, right? And he kidnapped Aubrey because she wanted to quit piano. But then, like, he's got too many things. There's also a lot of glass elements. There's like, stained glass. The implements he uses are glass. And then there's also like, a ton of mannequin legs hanging down from the ceiling. What is his thing? Is it piano? Is it glass? Is it mannequin legs? Like, what is it? Just give him one thing. A lot of movies try to make their killer character look like really scary and iconic. Michael Myers or Jason or even like Ghostface from Scream. In this movie, they just put him in a baseball cap. He just looks like a Midwestern dad. In the scenes where you're not supposed to recognize him yet, he's wearing like a blue mesh over his face. So Dakota finds the dad. He's been captured by the killer, tied up and drained of blood. So at that point, he dies and she gets captured by the killer and tied up. She's trying to escape. The killer comes back in the room and he's kind of like rubbing the fake legs on the ceiling. And at one point he's like nuzzling up and gives one like a little kiss. I feel like he probably would have passed out from blood loss at this point or at least been incapacitated. Dakota frees herself and she stabs the piano teacher with one of those glass knives. And this dude makes the most bizarre faces. Maybe that's why they kept his face covered for most of the movie. He like stumbles back. He's like caressing the mannequin legs as he dies. Oh, my legs. Dakota finds Aubrey in a grave, and I guess she knows where she is because she had that vision earlier of Aubrey in the graveyard. If that's the case, like, why wouldn't you go to Aubrey first? I guess maybe she thought she was dead. I don't know. Aubrey is in a glass coffin. It's giving Snow White. So finally, she uses her monster hand to smash through the glass of the coffin. And the last shot of the movie is a panning away shot of Dakota and Aubrey like laying together in the coffin. This always struck me as weird, and I think maybe this is one of the scenes where they had to use a double. They're positioned in such a way that it would be easier to splice the two shots together because they're both Lindsay, obviously. But she's holding her head so perfectly still, and something about the face looks off to me, and I really think they like superimposed Lindsay's face on this person. It looks like they meant to film both sides separately and stitch them together like that's what they would normally do, but instead they superimposed her face on this body double. It looks so awkward to me. So I think this is one of my favorite bad movies because I think they were really trying. I think the director or producer, whoever, had a vision for this movie and they executed that vision, but it just like didn't work. There's thoughtfulness there, it just didn't work out. There are a lot of attempts at symbolism that are really ham-fisted. There's a lot of red and blue, and red is for Dakota and blue is for Aubrey. It doesn't really go any deeper than that. It's just like red things indicate Dakota, blue things indicate Aubrey. Yeah, it's kind of silly, and it's everywhere. The whole movie is drenched with red and blue. There's also like a lot of owls, which I'm not super sure what that means. Like maybe just some kind of guardian watching over everything. The high school's mascot is the owls. Kind of a weird mascot, but actually when I was in high school, we would do competitions against this school who had the mascot of the pretzels. The fighting pretzels. Yeah, overall it just feels like somebody had a vision for this movie and they executed that vision and it just didn't quite work out. But I will never stop loving this movie. I've seen it so many times. Even though I'm probably not enjoying it in the way they intended for me to enjoy it, I do love it and I will continue to watch it. So that's I Know Who Killed Me 2007. If you have any ideas of other movies I should watch, leave a comment, let me know. She's being somewhat She's Dakota, a hard-living stripper from the wrong... Dakota... No, wait. Fuck. Aubrey. The cops got a DNA test. The cops... She seduced... Oh my god. This doesn't look good on camera. And in the high school, the football team, the high school, if you have any ideas for movies to make so she's on the side of the, so she, why can't I talk? Oh my god, my whole leg is numb. Oh my god. Oh. Aubrey finds, no, fuck, god. Okay. Oh, god damn. Okay.